Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. What I'd love to do this morning is go through a book, and the book that we've picked for this episode is entitled The Nordic Theory of Everything in Search of a Better Life. A book that was published on the 28th of June 2016 by a lady named Partanen. So this book is about comparing the Nordic experience, the Nordic lifestyle experience, and some of the benefits, and is a beautiful story that can help one compare and contrast. The Nordic Theory of Everything in Search of a Better Life is a book that takes the wheel, because throughout our lives, especially for those who live in Australia and on the other side of the world, we do hear whispers of Scandinavian utopias. But this book here isn't just about cold countries and cozy interiors. It's about systems that support people without draining them. Economic and social systems which help people live their life to the fullest with dignity and an ability to enjoy life without being or feeling like they're being a burden on society. This author, Partanen, is a Finnish journalist who moved to the US and found herself caught in a system that, despite its promise of freedom, left her more anxious and more entangled than she could have ever imagined. When you hear her story, you feel like following a friend who dared to ask, why can't life work better? Why can't life work better than what we currently have? And the answers she found, they weren't theoretical, they were answers that were lived, they were real, and they change the way one thinks about independence, society, and what it means to truly be free. Let's go through some of the learnings from this book and see what we can incorporate into our inventory of skills, knowledge, and wisdom, and help us be in a position to be able to compare and contrast what we have to what could be better. The first key lesson from this author is that true freedom requires support, not just choice. Before reading this book, one could easily think that freedom was about having endless choices, but Anu paints a different picture, one where freedom means not having to choose between survival and dignity, because in her home country, in Finland, universal healthcare and parental leave aren't luxuries, they're actual infrastructure. And one realizes that it's not about having more options, it's about having the right foundations so you're not forced into making those impossible decisions. And looking at a kind of support doesn't take freedom away, it actually makes freedom very real. The next key point that the author talks about is that dependency isn't always what it seems, and this one is quite powerful. In the US, needing help can somewhat feel shameful, but Anu explains how Nordic systems are built to make individuals less dependent on family or employers because the state provides the basic and needed safety nets. Just reading about her comparisons of the two systems can easily make you rethink how we define strength in our modern society. Being able to stand on your own doesn't mean rejecting help. It means not being trapped by who you're forced to rely on. Another key message from this wonderful book is that love should not necessarily be transactional. Anu describes how relationships in America often carry extra pressure because partners depend on each other for healthcare or financial survival. In deep contrast, Nordic couples can build love on choice, not necessity, which is a powerful idea that can stick with the reader. Love should be about connection, not contracts. When you remove economic desperation from the equation, relationships have room to grow and blossom from a place of freedom. And it all gets back down to good systems, because good systems create great citizens and better citizens. We often hear the narrative that government helps make people lazy. Anu flips that on its head and says that in Nordic countries, people trust the system, and in return, they feel responsible to continue to contribute to it. And this makes us in other countries question our assumptions. What if people thrive because they feel protected? What if generosity from the top creates responsibility at the grassroots? Another key message that comes from this book is that health shouldn't be a privilege. Listening to her detail about her experiences navigating the US healthcare system was honestly painful. She wasn't just confused, she was scared. Another key point is that education can be equal and excellent. Anu shares how in Finland, public education isn't a fallback, it's the standard. Teachers are highly trained, students aren't crushed by standardised testing, and equity is the goal from day one. And the last key point is that independence doesn't necessarily mean isolation. Anu explains that in Nordic countries, the model allows people to build their lives freely because they aren't burdened by the survival costs. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. Take care, everybody. Wishing you all the best, and bye for now.